Hello, sports fans. It's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, and today we are going to be doing Game 4 of the 1978 NLCS between the 1978 Phillies and the 1978 Dodgers. And as you can see, as promised, my baseball players came, so I've got the baseball players on the field. So we are going to roll the dice over here in this mini baseball field box that I have, so that we don't mess up on the field and knock players over. So the pitchers today for the combatants will be Tommy John, who will be pitching for the LA Dodgers, and there's his card. And the Phillies are going to go back to lefty Steve Carlton, who got his butt handed to him in the opening game of the series, and they are hoping for a lot better, and there's his card. Hoping for a lot better from him this game. So without any further delay, let's get on with the game. The first batter will be Davey Lopes for the Dodgers, and he gets a 3-4 roll, which is a ground ball shortstop. So that's going to be 6-3. Lopes bounces out. Next batter is Bill Russell. He gets a 2-8, which is a pop out to second. So pop out to 4. And lefty is getting off to a much better start in this game. And that brings up Reggie Smith, the center fielder today, and he gets a 2-7, which is a home run 1-8. And he does get a home run. Reggie Smith hits a home run and gets an RBI. And Carlton gives up a hit and an earned run. And Reggie Smith strikes a dagger into the heart of the Philadelphia team. And now Ron Say comes up the Penguin, and he gets a 5-7. And 5-7 on Carlton is a fly ball, right field B. So he flies out to 9, but LA strikes for a run in the first inning, and they take the 1-0 lead here. And that brings us to the Philadelphia lineup, and they will be starting off with Gary Maddox. And he gets a 4-8 on Tommy John, which is a pop out to third base. Pop out to 5, 1 away. Brings up Bake McBride. He gets a 1-5, which is a single 1-5. And he is out. He gets a line out to second base. Line out to 4. And then that brings up Michael Jack Schmidt. And he gets a 5-12 on Tommy John, which is a walk. So Schmidt gets aboard with a walk. And that's the first base runner allowed by Tommy John. And that brings up Greg Luzinski. And Luzinski gets a 4-9, which is a single, 1 asterisk. So they have 2 runners on. Luzinski getting a hit, the bull. Tommy John giving up his second base runner and first hit of the game. And that brings up Richie Hebner with 2 on. Ducks on the pond, and he gets 3-6, which is a home run, 1-11. And that's actually a double. Yes, a double. So that double knocks in 1 run. That was Maddox. Let's see. He gets at least 1 RBI. And, or no, that was Schmidt. And so Schmidt comes around. And that was Luzinski is the trailing runner, so there's no way they're sending Luzinski. And that brings up Bob Boone with runners at second and third now and 2 outs. And all of a sudden, Tommy John is in a little bit of trouble. And he gets a 6-8, which is a single, and that knocks in another run. So Bob Boone with a single and an RBI. And the runner is Luzinski, who scored. And Tommy John gives up another hit and an earned run. And the Phillies take the lead here. And Larry Bow is up. And he gets a 6-6, which is a fly ball right field B. So he flies out to 9. But not before the Phillies take the lead with a 2 spot in the first. And now lead 2-1. And so now the Dodgers come up. And the Dodgers will bring up Steve Garvey to lead off in the second. And that's a 5-4 on Carlton, which is a home run. So Steve Garvey immediately ties the game. And Carlton gives up his second home run. Second hit, and they're both home runs. And that brings up Rick Monday. And Rick Monday gets a 6-11, which is a fly ball right field X. The right fielder for the Phillies is Bake McBride, and he is a 2. And that is an undetermined roll. And that's a 15. So that's going to be something. I think that's going to be something. 15 and 2 is a single in air, batter on second. So Rick Monday is on second base with no outs, actually, no outs. He got a single and an E, what was that, 11, 6-11, and E9. And that was Bake McBride with the air. So now there's a runner at second, still no outs. And Lee Lacy is up, and he is playing this game instead of, in the last game we had Dusty Baker. But Dusty Baker is a healthy scratch for this game, and Lee Lacy is playing instead. And he gets a 1-9, which is a triple 1-13 or a double. And that's going to be a triple that knocks in that knocks in Rick Monday. So and he gets an RBI. And we got to give the yeah. So Carlton has given up 3 hits and 2 of them have been a home run and 1 has been a triple. And that brings up Steve Yeager. And Steve Yeager gets a 2-5, which is a strikeout. And that's Lefty's first K of the game. So the Dodgers have the lead here, 3-2. And that's, what was that, the first out? Yeah, that was the first out. They're going to let Tommy John hit with a man 90 feet away, but only 1 out. And he gets a 2-7, which is a strikeout, predictably. But they still had another out, so they decided to let him hit. And Davey Lopes comes up, and he gets a 5-10 on Carlton, which is a strikeout. So Lefty strikes out 3 straight guys, but not before yielding the go-ahead run to the Dodgers in the second inning. But they lead now 3-2, and Ted Sizemore comes up, and he'll bat against Tommy John, who also has not been pitching very well. And that's a 2-10, which is a single. So Ted Sizemore gets a base hit. And that's a base hit by Tommy John, allowed. That's the 4th hit John is allowed against 1 walk. And that brings up lefty, Steve Carlton. He's a 5 pitcher. They're going to let him hit because he's got a good 3 column. And he gets a 5-10, which is a ground ball shortstop. And the shortstop for the Dodgers is Bill Russell. He's a 3. And that's going to be a 2, so that's going to be something too. 2 and 3 is a single 2. So now there's runners at the corners with no outs. Base hit allowed by Tommy John. And that brings up Gary Maddox. And Gary Maddox gets a 4-6, which is a strikeout. So there's 1 away. Tommy John striking a guy out. And that brings up Bake McBride. And Bake McBride gets a 6-6. And that's a fly ball, right field B. Scores the runner, 2 away. Fly out to 9, but it's a sac fly. And an RBI. And, oh wait, no, that was Bake McBride, sorry. So, sac fly, RBI, recorded again, earned run allowed by John, and now it's a tie game, 3-all. And Michael Jack Schmidt is up, and he gets a 3-5, which is a fly ball, center field B. Fly out to 8. But the Phillies tie it up, and it's 3-3. Nobody's left this game yet as far as the pitching because the game is so close. Bill Russell is coming up in the top of the 3rd to bat against lefty. He gets a 3-11, which is a single. So Bill Russell's on with a base hit. Carlton allowing his 4th hit. Reggie Smith gets a 5-8, which is a pop out to short, so there's 1 away. Pop out to 6. 1 out, man at first. Ron Say up. Ron Say gets a 1-8, which is a walk. So Carlton allows another man on base, and then we've got Steve Garvey. And Steve Garvey gets a 2-10, which is a ground ball shortstop A. So Garvey hits into the 6-4-3 double play that ends the Dodger threat in the 3rd. And now we go to the bottom of the 3rd with the game tied. And Greg the Bull Luzinski up in the bottom of the 3rd for the Phillies. And he gets a 4-10, which is a fly ball center field, and the center fielder's Reggie Smith, and he's a 3. And that's going to be a 3-3, which I think is probably an out. And it is. So, 1 away, Luzinski flies out. Fly out to 8. And that brings up Richie Hebner. Richie Hebner gets a 2-11, which is a line out to first base. So line out to 4. And then that brings up Bob Boone. Bob Boone gets a 2-4, which is a pop out to third base. Pop out to 5. And no runs come in for the Phillies, and that's the first 0 frame for both teams since the game started. And now we go to the top of the 4th with Rick Monday up. And Rick Monday gets a 2-7, which is a strikeout. And that brings up Lee Lacy. And Lee Lacy gets a 3-11, which is a ground ball second base B. So Lefty seems to have settled down a little bit here, and then Steve Yeager is up, and he gets a 6-8, which is a pop out to first base. Pop out to 4. And the Dodgers get no runs in the 4th. So this is shaping up to be a very good game here. Let me see if I can adjust this a little better. Maybe not. So Larry Boa is up in the bottom of the 4th. And he gets a 2-8, which is a line out to shortstop. 1 away. Brings up Ted Sizemore. He gets a 3-5, which is a fly ball center field B. And that brings up Lefty. And again, he's a pretty good hitter. He gets a 6-9, which is a single. And that's his second hit of the game, actually, too. So he is a good hitter. And with Carlton, the base runner at first, Gary Maddox is up, and he gets a 6-5. And 6-5 is a strikeout. So, Gary Maddox strikes out. And the Phillies get no runs there either. And so now we go to the top of the 5th, still tied at 3. And Tommy John will face Carlton. Now both pitchers seem to have settled down. 4-8 is a strikeout. So Tommy John strikes out in the 5th. And that brings up Davey Lopes. Davey Lopes gets a 3-4, which is a ground ball shortstop A. And then that brings up Bill Russell. And I did lose the dice. Bill Russell gets a 3-10, which is a single. So there he is, base runner with 2 outs. And that's Russell's second hit of the game. He's 2 for 3. And that brings up Reggie Smith, who homered in this game. And he gets a 2-9, which is a single. So runners are now at first and second with 2 outs. Another hit allowed by Carlton. And Ron Say is up, and he gets a 2-7, which is a fly ball left field B. Right between a home run and a single. Fly out to 7. No runs come in for LA, although it could have been really big for them. And now, Bake McBride will lead off against Tommy John in the bottom of the 5th. And he gets a 5-4, which is a third base X. And the third baseman for the Dodgers is Say, and he is a 3. And that's a 7. 7 and 3 at third is an out. 1 away. So McBride, 5-3. That brings up Michael Jack Schmidt, and he gets a 1-5, which is a strikeout. John with his 3rd strikeout of the game, and that brings up Greg Luzinski, the Bull, and he gets a 2-10, which is a ground ball shortstop. So he bounces out 6-3. And since an early game explosion by the teams that resulted in a 3-3 tie after 2, neither team can get anything going here. And Steve Garvey will be batting against Lefty to lead off the 6th. And he gets a 6-3, which is a fly ball left field X. And that is going to be Luzinski, and he's a 4. So 2 and 4. Luzinski might have actually made the play. No, he didn't. Double. So Garvey leads off with a double. Base hit allowed by Carlton. Rick Monday up. Normally I might think about sacrificing, but not really with Rick Monday. And he gets a 2-8, which is a strikeout. And Carlton gets his 5th strikeout of the game. And that brings up Lee Lacy. And Lee Lacy gets a 2-6, which is a walk. So, another man on. And Carlton giving up his 2nd walk of the game. Brings up Steve Yeager. And Steve Yeager gets a 3-8, which is a single 1-11. The weak hitting Steve Yeager gets a single, which loads the bases up. Moves Garvey to 3rd and moves Lacy to 2nd, and there's only one away. The Philly, this is too important, so the Phillies are going to play the infield in. I would normally just let the infield stay back, but with Tommy John, with Tommy John up, and Tommy John will hit, they are going to, no, Tommy John is not going to hit. The Dodgers will not do that. They will pinch hit for Tommy John. And the pinch hitter is going to be Bill North. So we'll write Bill North in, pinch hitter. Bases loaded, 1 out. And what that means for the Phillies, yes, they will bring the infield in. And Bill North gets a 5-7, which is a fly ball right field B. He knocks in the man at 3rd, 2 away. Another earned run allowed for Carlton. And with 2 outs, that brings up Davy Lopes. And Davy Lopes gets a 2-7, which is a ground ball 3rd base B. So he bounces out 5-3, but the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead on a sac fly by Bill North, who is now out of the game. And right now we'll put in a placeholder 1 card until we see who's going to come in to pitch. And that is going to be, even though it's relatively early in the game, they're going to bring in Terry Forster. And he's a 5 hitting pitcher, so they will get a number 5 hitting pitcher hitting card. And we bring in Forster. I believe this is his first appearance of the series. John having gone 5. And we will bat with the Phillies now coming up, and they'll be facing Terry Forster in the bottom of the 6th. And that's a 4-6, which is a single. So the Phillies lead off with a base hit off of Forster by Hebner in the 6th. And that brings up Bob Boone. And Bob Boone gets a 3-5, which is a ground ball shortstop A double play. 6-4-3. And now there's 2 outs and nobody on for the Phillies. And that brings up Larry Boa. And he gets a 4-9, which is a strikeout on Forster. Forster with his first K of the game. And the Phillies get no runs in the 6th. That brings up Bill Russell in the top of the 7th. 6-5 is a strikeout on Carlton's card. Carlton with the K, 6th K of the game. Reggie Smith, 1-6 is a single 1-7. And he will get a line out to first base. Line out to 4, that's 2 away. Or line out to 3. Line out to 3, sorry. And Ron Say comes up and he gets a 6-9, and that is a strikeout. So it's not that Carlton has pitched terribly here. He certainly has pitched better than he pitched in Game 1 of the series. But the Dodgers are winning by a run late, so that could cause some problems. Ted Sizemore is up. And Ted Sizemore gets a 5-4. That's a shortstop on Forster's card, and that's Bill Russell, who's a 3. That's a 17-3 at short, which is an out with no runners, so 1 away. Um, 6-3. Lefty is going to be pinch hit for, because it's about time for him to leave anyway. He only pitched 6, or did he pitch 7? He pitched 7. And coming in to pinch hit, you would think they would try to find somebody with a little bit of home run power if they had anyone like that. But really what they're going to do is they're going to go to Jerry Martin. He doesn't have a lot of home run power, but he can get on base. So Jerry Martin will come on and pinch hit. Against Forster with 1 out. And he gets a 6-5, which is a ground ball shortstop, and that is a 3. That's Bill Russell, who's a 3. And that's an indistinguishable role. That's an 8, and it's probably an out. Yes, it is. So Jerry Martin also bounces out 6-3. And that brings up Gary Maddox. Gary Maddox gets a 6-5, which again is a shortstop X. And he is a 3, and that time it may be a base hit. And it is a single. So Gary Maddox gets a single to keep the inning alive. Terry Forster giving up his 2nd hit since coming on. And Bate McBride is up, and he gets a 2-7, which is a ground ball third base B. So 5-3, and the Phillies go meekly away in the 9th. And we have to replace Jerry Martin with whoever the pitcher's hitting card will be of the new guy that comes on to pitch for Carlton. And that's going to be Warren Brewster. And he is a 2 hitting pitcher. So we'll go get the 2 hitting pitcher card. And put that in the place where it belongs. And we will write in Brewster. Brewster's Millions. Going to see if he can make those millions by shutting out the Dodgers from here on out. And that brings up Steve Garvey in the top of the 8th. And he gets a 4-6, which is a fly ball right field, 1 away. Fly out to 9, 1 out. Rick Monday is up. He gets a 1-3, which is a ground ball second base A. So he bounces out to second, 4-3. And that brings up Lee Lacy. And Lee Lacy gets a 4-8, which is a fly ball center field B. So fly out to 8. No runs for LA. Philadelphia coming up with Michael Jack Schmidt. They need to get a run. They need a tying run pretty soon. And that brings up Schmidt, and he gets a 4-5, which is a single. So they do have a base runner and a little bit of life here to lead off in the 8th. Forster giving up his 3rd hit. Greg Luzinski is up. He gets a 4-5, which is a single. So that moves Schmidt to second. That's the 4th hit given up by Forster. And Richie Hebner is stepping in. And he gets a 1-10, which is a pop out to second. Pop out to 4, 1 away. And that brings up Bob Boone, the catcher. He gets a 3-8, which is a pop out to short. And that leaves it up to Larry Boa. And he gets a 5-4, which is a ground ball shortstop, which we have established is a 3. And that's an 18-3 at short. 18-3 is roll again. And that's a 9-3. And a 9-3 is an out 3. So they're out of the inning. Boa bouncing out. 6-3. They get no runs in the 9th. Now they have to try to hold the Dodgers to nothing and hope they can get 1 in the bottom of the 9th. That's going to bring up Steve Yeager. He gets a 6-7, which is a single 1 to 13. And he gets a 15, so that's a line out to second. Steve Yeager out, line out to 4. Terry Forster's up, but he won't bat. So Terry Forster went 3. And they will bring in Teddy Martinez to pinch hit for him. And Teddy Martinez gets a 4-4 off Brewster, which is a center field X, and that's Maddox, and he's a 1. And that's a 7, and I believe that's an out. It is. 2 away. So Teddy Martinez flies out to 8. And there's 2 down. And that brings up Lopes. And he gets a 1-10, which is a double 1 to 15 or a single. That's a single for Lopes. So with 2 out, Lopes gets a 2-out single off Brewster. First hit allowed by Brewster. And that brings up Bill Russell, who gets a 1-8, which is a pop out to short. Pop out to 6, and that sets the stage for the bottom of the 9th, with the Dodgers leading 4-3. And the new pitcher for the Dodgers will be Charlie Huff. Who I believe did make an appearance earlier in the series. Don't remember how well he pitched or how poorly he pitched, whatever the case might be. But I believe he did pitch. And that's going to bring up Ted Sizemore in the top of the ninth as the first batter. And he gets a 4-5, which is a strikeout. And Huff with a strikeout. That brings up the pitcher spot, but they aren't going to let the pitcher hit, certainly. But again, this team doesn't have the deepest bench around. They're going to let Jose Cardinal pinch hit for the Phillies. That was one of the drawbacks I think I've seen with this Phillies team, is that it was just the starters and then forget about it after that. 6-10 on Huff's card is a fly ball to center. Their center fielder is Reggie Smith, who is a 3. That's a 5. I believe that's going to be an out, and it is. So Cardinal flies out to center. And that brings up Gary Maddox. It's all up to Maddox. He gets 3-7, and he bounces out the short, 6-3. And that's it, folks. The LA Dodgers have beaten the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 4 and in the series, and are going on to the World Series to face the Kansas City Royals. And I will be playing that series at some time in the near future. I will be starting that series. But for right now, we have the National League champion Dodgers celebrating on the Philadelphia Phillies Veterans Stadium field. And for me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, that's it. And we are signing off. And see you later. See you in either Kansas City or LA, whichever one would be home. I'm not sure. But talk to you later.